but a calm that bears inaudible traces of many loud frequencies that have been recently passed. There is also in this state an endless circularity and an unbearable silence. The pause that punctuates the experiences. The body is in shock, and the sound of its functions that were previously inaudible are made manifest. So emerges a soundscape of sounds of the body and its various processes. Trauma is pre-verbal and timeless, still and silent. The essential dimension of psychological trauma is the breaking up of the unifying thread of temporality. The clinical features, usually described as dissociation and multiplicity, can be understood in terms of trauma's impact in disrupting the sense of being in time, leading to the emergence of a consciousness of duration. Trauma, in other words, is timeless. In a condition of sustained armed conflicts, where disappearance and absences are the normal state of things, forgetting becomes a device to deal with trauma. It is like a dream had in many variations but never remembered, but always familiar. What remains in this state is a sense of loss, but the memory of what has been lost is not retained. In the fractured mind, only fragments are left for us to make structures out of. Producing a concept of time that is at once cosmological, biological, historical, and individual. The activity of the narrative consists in constructing coherent temporal ensembles in order to configure time. The coherent temporal assemblages contribute to the configuration of space and time, of individual time, of social time, of the history of mentalities, and the first and foremost, the scientific and political time of physics, geophysics, and astrophysics. The disruption of these linear assemblages experience of space and duration. There coexist multiple temporalities and thus many unrealities. It is a contemporary fable in which the characters are made conspicuous only in their absences, and the only narrative is that of time having passed by. The world time of history of chronicles, almanacs, and calendars has been overcome, dominated by the world time of real time. In other words, the time of instantaneous, ubiquitous immediacy. Hence free trade, hence the necessity of leaping over borders, but over agreements as well, and of arriving at unfettered permanent flow. favorable to synchronization. In the globalization and post-industrial period, everything is being played out between two themes, the foreclosure and exclusion, which you call in English the locked-in syndrome. It's the syndrome of confinement. It's confinement under an open sky. Has lived through whole dimensions. Zero dimension, the point, line, the surface. Volume plus time. One dimension, two dimensions, three dimensions. This is fundamental in the West. The history of the relationship in space with Greece, with perspectivists. Then we exploded it. So I wanted to say that the big event was critical space. Critical space is at the intersection of relativity, the fractals, and of course the notion of the accident. Since the Big Bang is the origin of history and what gives us dimensions. But now we exploded them. Whole dimensions are simulacrum. So you have this fundamental anxiety linked to the notion of space. You cannot separate the notion of space from the notion of dimension.
Funny how secrets travel on. I start to believe if I were to bleed.
In the East, it's well known that the notion of dimension does not exist. It is replaced by ma, the interval. It is equivalent of interval in music. This is really important. In the East, the musical interval in the tempo also has to do with the interval in space. Dimensions don't exist without going through the interval. The body used to be confined in space. Now, it is time that imprisons us. It is body and time. In a space-time too infinitely compressed for man, not to feel a fundamental claustrophobia. The colonization of the body by biotechnology is very much part of the same phenomenon. It could be said that the artificial insertion of micro-machines into the body is extending the type of territorial colonization that Europe had imposed over the world inside. The colonial utopia par excellence is the attempt to modify the body of the colonized. First, as early as the Roman Empire, by roads and canals, and then by railway and highways. The vocation of technology by virtue of its globalizing dimension was to irrigate the territorial body. Then the social body was irrigated by electricity and the energy revolution. And subsequently, technology has taken on the human body itself, the animal body. And then in an internal way, by invading the body with flesh-eating prosthetics and with transplant technique, the technology has been inserted inside the body. The next offensive is constructing the body from scratch. The other aspect is genesis, the possibility of industrializing the living organism, industrializing the species itself, artificial selection. Biogenetics now is about moving to a total, to an absolute eugenics, a eugenics of the perfection of creation itself. Behind it, there is clearly the idea of humanity, not to mention a post-humanity, that has been augmented as one talks about a reality that has been augmented through cybernetic procedures.
Following words: photography, biography, geography, or autobiography. If photography refers to the writing forms which is inscribed in lights, then definitely biography indicates the writing through the motor schema of biological signals. There's no way these percepts, noises are trying to illustrate a philosophical hypothesis. But at some point, all these are going to part of the new language of philosophy. It will be great to see philosophy deterritorializing itself by allowing flow of images, codes becoming the language of philosophy, or new ways of creating newer concepts. Art starts with territorial marks. This doesn't refer back either to a subject or a sensation, which captures them and presents them as marks, nor to an object which would just be nothing more than just an expression of marks. In order to deal with this inconsistency of sensations inside the brain, the microprocesses of change moving within, affirming this signal, noise is self-created, some sort of ensemble or assemblage of automatic movements. Art is an apparatus of capturing sensation, percepts, generated by disturbances and vibrations in the geographical field. All we sense are inner sensations, whose relentless succession prevents them from assuming a lasting, identifiable shape. An unbroken sensation or mood would indicate grave disorder, depression, or mania. In spite of the Kantian claim that what appears must have ground that do not appear, things in themselves, the fundamental ground of the appearing world is not the sheer activity of thinking, which is becoming, but our inner organs, our depths. A pure thinking without a body would not that there is a reality or distinction, such as awake, asleep, to eat, to speak, paraphrasing Hannah Arendt. Thinking is without a natural relation to reality, in withdrawing from realm of the sensible. It withdraws from what feeling of realness. In short, the primacy of what is produced by our sensibility and appears to us over what doesn't appear at all must be considered. For no one has ever succeeded in living in pure becoming, and there is no pure becoming without sensibility and appearance. Technology as representation and explores the above hypothetical situation and use it as a point of departure for the explorations of the technologies of memory. The phrase which contemporary cultural historian Marika Sturken uses to identify the cultural products which assist in both individual and cultural memory. Memories are manipulated to fit our life history, our own views about ourselves. They are also manipulated by society, by the ways in which external information is transmitted to us. In this days of reduced internal memory, we need to be aware of the ways in which information can be used, media, history, propaganda, to impact on how we perceive the world. How structure of memory changes when the condition of political economy of memory changes from collective material memory to individual private memories. all of us suffer from interpretation. Each of us, or even the interpreters, sufferers. What is at stake is not a matter of liberation as opposed to submission. It is a matter of line of flight, escape, and exit, and outlet. The desire to evade interpretation is not a desire to be against interpretation, to negate it. During the philosophical probing of the deep relationship between dance and time, a relationship could be said to be constitutive of Western theatrical dance. That is to say, of a dance that by end of the 16th century starts moving increasingly within the mechanism of something called the choreography. Indeed, as dance falls prey to the true apparatus of capture, known as choreography, its questions become, how does one create a body that may answer adequately both kinetically and perceptively to movement? If movement is in itself the imperceptible, if movement as the imperceptible is what leads the dancing body into becoming an endless series of formal dissolutions. To see choreography as an apparatus, moreover, to see it as an apparatus that captures dance only to distribute its significations and mobilization its gestures and effects. Within fields of lights and fields of words that are strictly codified is to delimit whose hegemonic modes of aesthetically perceiving and theoretically accounting for dance's evolution in time. A fabric is torn when touched. One says yes to a life that wants to move higher through negation. To say yes, to say no, that mighty hocus pocus of existence gives wind to the nerves of the true perplexed. He lies like this, he hunts like this, he cycles like this, half here, half there, and laughs and laughs. We are the future in the world and an image for the perplexed happening in the world. This doesn't end here, goes along the life amidst perplexity. Through life, we celebrate uncertainty and doubts. We have always been a larva code.
Nature is on speed. It's moving faster than ever has before. The binaries between past and future are dissolved. Geographical timescale is evaluated by considering the various types of stratigraphic changes. These include geostratigraphic changes, the biostratigraphic changes, the lithostratigraphic changes, and also the chemostratigraphic. There's no evidence of radiation in hydraulic fluid stimulation. It was a statistic. That was 3% of the planet's 3% of the planet's vertebrates are wild animals. We don't know how much more we can take before we start to see abrupt, unpredictable shifts, threatening global, interconnected society. The idea of the environment began in 1942. We are a fossil fuel burning, carbon hungry species. Have you seen the great acceleration curve? We're fucking up there. Fucking. Geological timescale. AMX's environmental excellence will be ongoing during the tight gas stimulation program. AMX's environmental excellence will be ongoing during the tight gas stimulation program. AMX. species, time, certain types of species, times of hopefulness, past.
Thank you.
Capacity